Mr. Peter Green, Executive Partner from Gartner, and he will have a presentation how AI changes the IT operating model to drive. Maybe it's not necessarily 100% connected with the cybersecurity, but I think it's a really important topic from Gartner. So, Mr. Green, thank you for being with us.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Let me just get the voice sorted out. So just as an introduction, there we go. So what I'll talk about this morning, as was introduced, about how AI is changing the operating model. And a lot of this is also about cybersecurity and security, about how you change your organization to accommodate those changes. So just as an introduction, and again, what I'm showing you here is from the Gartner research material. Most organizations are investing in AI these days. Depending on the size of the organization, ranging from medium to small size enterprises up to global enterprises, a lot of organizations are putting a lot of money into AI and creating the AI capability inside the organization. Depending on also on industries, so looking in the financial sector, looking in the manufacturing sector, etc. It's all being driven now, and investment is being put into developing an AI capability. Also, what we're seeing is that investment in AI is increasing in your ability to increase your maturity capability with AI. There's a direct correlation between the investment that you're putting in and the AI maturity levels that we're seeing. So the less mature organizations, they're getting more around return on employee, so they're not putting as much investment into developing AI. But when you start developing your AI maturity, and the organization starts seeing the benefits from it, moving from return on employee to return on investment, which is hitting the bottom line around increasing productivity all the way through to revenue profitability, then the organization wants to start investing more into AI accordingly. So there's that direct correlation about your ability to invest, as well as then the ability of your AI maturity, and your increasing AI maturity gives you more investment and so on. So it's like an ongoing exercise. One of the challenges that all of our clients are seeing at this point in time is that ROI. So what is the CFO looking at? What is the board of directors looking at from investing in AI? So on that previous slide, organizations are investing in AI, but they're really not seeing the return on investment at this point in time. Most organizations are starting to see the return on employee, about improving an individual's performance and productivity, but that at this point in time is not really hitting the bottom line about improving productivity, improving revenue, looking at those types of bottom line ROI. And then very few are moving on from ROI to what's called return on future, which is starting to look at changing your operating model, your enterprise operating model as well, which I'll go through. So that's just as an introduction. Most organizations are investing in AI. Very few organizations are getting return on investment. They're getting return on employee. And the more investment is aligned to the maturity of the organization, increasing maturity is increasing the level of investment. Now, that's got a direct impact to the IT departments within inside your organizations. So what is AI impacting? All the way from putting in AI agents across the organization, changing the operating model, which I'll get into now, looking at how your IT workforce operates. And I'll go into a specific example, which I was talking about to a client at the Data and Analytics Summit in London last week. But as I say, changing the IT operating model. Now, this is a diagram which our research analysts have put together about what the organization looks like today and what the organization is going to look like into the future with an AI-first strategy. And it's broken it down into the AI operating model components, or your operating model components, and the impact of AI, all the way from how your IT works with the business areas, as well as then how your IT department is changing with the implementation of AI going forwards. Okay, so what I'm going to do is run through some of the key areas that you need to start looking at with your operating model and start putting those changes into organization. So big challenge now with how IT integrates and works with the business areas. I was speaking with a client a month or so ago. They literally went out, and this was a global organization. They went out and bought 35,000 Copilot licenses, but they hadn't got a clue what they were going to use them for. So what you've got to look at is how IT is going to enable the business to operate, and what are the business capabilities and processes which you are going to start using AI for, looking to automate those processes, taking away some of the workforce in those particular areas going forwards. Okay, so very much looking at that business layer and looking across your end-to-end business value chain. So what is your core end-to-end business value chain? What are the processes across that? And what processes are you then going to enable using AI agents across the organization to automate some of those processes, to improve the productivity of the business workforce in the particular roles that they're undertaking? So very much looking at that business-IT relationship, and business and IT working a lot closer together. Another big area, and this is starting to look within inside your IT department itself. Again, big focus on software engineering and your software development teams in your organizations. I was speaking with a insurance company a couple of weeks ago at the conference, and they've literally changed their job description and role of their software engineering team. So they're using AI to develop their coding and putting in the coding and doing the testing, that retraining their software engineers and redoing their job descriptions to be actually looking at QAing the outputs of their AI agents across the organization. So the big impact on the software engineering teams going forward. So you build that into your thinking as well. Then you've got your IT assets, all the way from your customer or your user-facing software, your enterprise-wide software engineering platforms, your ERPs of the world. Some of those are putting in their own embedded AI capabilities as well as looking at your data and BI capabilities, as well as then not just on your own data centers, but also in the cloud going forwards. All of those different areas are starting to look at how to enable those capabilities using AI going forwards. AI agents, AI native software. For an example with SAP, building in Joule, and they've just locked down Joule in their API layers over the last month. So you need to take into those areas on your ERP side, as well as then your AI ready data and BI, using those AI agents to automate the reporting and dashboarding across the organization. So again, IT assets are going to change. Looking at your vendors, and I think I picked up some of the discussions about the third party in the previous discussion there, but how are you actually working with your third party vendors and suppliers? Because they're going to go through the same exercise about putting AI into those organizations. How are you going to contract with them? How are you going to go through the procurement lifecycle? How are you going to do vendor performance management of those organizations which are using AI to provide their services and technologies to your organization? So again, a big focus from a vendor point of view that you need to build into it. From an operations point of view, IT operations also is going to be putting in AI capabilities within inside your own IT operations department. How are they automating, semi-automating some of their services that they're providing your organization and going through that change, including things like your support desk, service desk, putting in an AI capability at the front end, and then starting to reduce the demand on people. So your service desks are going to look at reducing their headcount going forwards, etc., to enable AI to take up the productivity and the processes. Then it's looking at the risk side of things, and this is touching on the cybersecurity side, but not just the cybersecurity. It's looking at the risk and security of your organization across it using AI capabilities. So you're increasing the risk to the organization of putting in AI at this point in time, particularly in those lower levels of maturity. If you're at a low level, a medium level of AI maturity, it's increasing the risk to the organization, and it's increasing the exposure to security incidents across. So you need to look at how you're going to factor that into your strategies going forwards. Then it's looking at your own IT employees. So how are you using your people at this moment, all the way from your software engineers, all the way through to your service desk, your IT operations, your enterprise architects, etc. What does your IT department look like today, skills-wise, people-wise, volume of those people-wise and skills across the organization? And how is that going to be impacted by the implementation of AI into those processes and capabilities across the board? And then from a management and governance point of view, there's several organizations that are putting in AI capabilities to create automated dashboard and reporting. So that's taken off the picture. How are they managing? How are they governing your environment? All the way from reference architecture to other governance structures which you've got across the board. From a financing point of view, how are you doing your IT budgeting? How are you doing your IT resource planning? Going through all of those areas from a management, governance, and finance point of view that you need to look at. And then across the board, it's a good analogy about how the cloud, moving to the cloud, has changed the profile of IT. IT is more of a broker when you're into the cloud environment. Very similar to moving more and more into AI and implementing more AI capabilities inside your IT department. IT is going to be that broker between your and putting it across the board. So really looking at how you're going to change your organization. One of the big areas is also about culture, mindset that you need to look at. Putting in an AI capability is not just a technology program, it's a business change program. So you need to look at putting it through culture-wise, mindset-wise, taking it through the board. A lot of organizations are struggling to get business leaders, business domain leaders especially, to embrace AI and start putting in the AI use cases across their parts of the organization. So it's that culture, it's the mindset side of things, it's the buy-in that AI is safe, it's secure, as well as it will improve their parts of the organization, whether that be in research and development, all the way through to maybe supply chain and the manufacturing industry, actually the manufacturing of the products, distribution of those products, logistics, warehousing. All of those areas are going to be impacted by AI, and then your IT department needs to enable all of that through their end-to-end business life cycle going forwards. And then, as I mentioned in the introduction, so what we're seeing is this crawl, walk, run phasing. So as I say, a lot of organizations are starting to put in more simple, less mature AI use cases across the organization, which is looking at return on employee. So it's not really hitting the bottom line, it's just improving an organization's staff and their productivity and their performance. Then when you start getting more mature across the board, looking at your AI strategy, your value propositions in that first slide that I showed about the ROI, about your governance structures, about your security about your security, all the way through to your data. One of the challenges that organizations are facing from a data point of view, and I was speaking to a data and analytics lead of a bank, they were saying that their data is 99.99% accurate and complete, but it's not AI ready. So one of the challenges that you'll go through with AI is to make sure your data is AI ready so it can be used in those use cases. So it's part of that maturation process. So going up from crawling, maybe doing some proof of concepts, doing some pilots, getting those working across your organization, and then starting to improve the maturity, but also scaling those to other parts of the organizations. If you look at a couple of the areas that Gartner are seeing as challenges to organizations, one of them is around maturity level itself, but also the other one, big one, is around scaling. Organizations are struggling to scale AI capabilities across the organization to the core business processes. A lot of organizations are using AI in finance and HR, which is great, but actually how do you impact the end-to-end business life cycle through the use of AI, which is going to hit the bottom line around revenues, productivity, performance, profitability, etc. So go from crawl to walk to run. And the other challenge with this is also you're going from more of a human performance improvement through to a human machine type of performance all the way through to machine. So it's taking away your IT people and your business people in that business capability and process. So you need to go through the learning curve. You can't just step in and develop a machine-to-machine AI capability without going through the learning steps to be able to do that. Okay. And then, how you actually go in through this. So your reinvention process. So looking at AI cautiously, factoring in security and cybersecurity into those areas, looking internally at cybersecurity and security challenges, but also across your ecosystem with the third-party vendors and suppliers that you are dealing with. Then you're looking at your opportunities, and again, keep focused on your industry and your core industry end-to-end business value chain, because you need to be hitting the bottom line with AI. As I showed in the first slide, your CFO is looking at the investment level that you're putting into AI. They want a return on investment from that. So what are the opportunities that you're looking at across that core end-to-end business value chain, which the CFO will recognize, rather than just return on employee? And then AI-first strategy. But you've got to learn how to be able to do that and put it in place. So how do you embrace an AI-first approach, reinventing the organization and reinventing your IT department and how they work and support the business areas and their capabilities and processes? Okay. And then how to do that. What you can start looking at, going through that crawl, walk, run approach, from being AI cautious to providing an opportunistic approach to all the way through to AI first. Looking at all of those different areas. As I mentioned, culture, mindset is a big one, about what's your identity, who are the actual businesses and users that you are going to start enabling using your AI, looking at software and data. As I mentioned, big change in the software engineering space, big change in the data space and being data ready, looking at infrastructure and architecture, more and more moving to the cloud and away from your own data centers, your IT operations processes, your workforce and skills, etc., all the way through that I've been through. Now, what you've got to do, and this slide, the next slide is a bit too detailed to read, but I put it in because I'm sure you're going to get access to the slides. So what you can start doing is looking at the different approaches that you can do in each one of those particular areas, all the way from identity and mandate, all the way through to security and risk going forwards in cybersecurity. So you can have a look at that in more detail when you go through the slide decks. Okay. And as I say, just starting to wrap up, we've got a couple of minutes left. So again, looking at all of the areas that I mentioned, that IT business relationship is really important, more and more important with AI. Okay, need to make sure all the way from culture and mindset, all the way through to the AI use cases that you're putting in place, through to the return on investment. Audit your IT stack. You know, are you bringing in your own AI platforms, pulling in Copilots, ChatGPT, etc.? How are you integrating to the inbuilt embedded AI capabilities in the likes of SAP or the other ERP platforms which were around? Dedicated enablement, AI enablement. A lot of organizations are starting to look at recruiting ahead of AI. At this point in time, we're not seeing that as a real operational role. It's more like a program director role, which is orchestrating all of the different stakeholders and parties across the organization, all the way from IT itself to your data and analytics teams, as well as, more importantly, your business domain leads. And the AI, head of AI, is orchestrating all of those particular people in a kind of program which you're going to take through the learning curve over the next 3 to 5 years going forwards. Build that roadmap, really important. Crawl, walk, run. So the roadmap is really important. Collaborate with HR, in particular when it's starting to change the role and description of the various people you have across your team, and then starting to put in the metrics to show the real ROI of AI inside the organization. And then this is a slide from a presentation I gave a couple of weeks ago, but it was more about the economics of AI. So as I say, making sure your AI investment, first of all, it's standing up an AI capability, but the use cases that you're starting to put in actually impact the core end-to-end business value chain of your organization. The top diagram there is an example of a manufacturing organization, which I used before, going through research and development, supply chain, etc. As I mentioned, increasing maturity capability levels with your AI use cases. Crawl, walk, run. And as I say, look at return on employee, but your CFO is putting in pressure on that AI investment to move to ROI or even to return on future. And that's where you're starting to change your operating model, looking at human to human, all the way from to machine into the future. And as I say, agile and phased approach. A lot of organizations are successful with pilots, but they're struggling with scaling that across the organization, which is going to make a real impact going forwards. And that is the end. Look at that, 1 minute to go.
Thank you very much from Gartner. Any question from the audience? Okay. Mr. Lazar, you want to have the T-shirt, okay?
I have a question for you. So, how will the software department look like? Will we have hybrid software department with the developers and the agents working together? And will the developer role change to a QA engineer?
The role of software developers is changing dramatically. And I was mentioning that example about an insurance company in the Nordics. They literally have gone with HR and they've changed the job description and role and responsibilities of their software engineers. They literally use AI to do their coding and their testing, and their software engineers are more playing a Q&A role. So it will fundamentally change. It's one of the biggest impacted teams inside your IT area is your software development capability. And it's including your own software engineering, your bespoke applications which your teams develop, but also how you integrate those with third-party platforms like your ERP platforms. But again, just be mindful, SAP, as I say, it's locked down, it's API layer, so you can't get into Joule. It's those types of things that you need to take into account. But a big impact on your software engineering team.
And the last one.
Thank you. Hi. In the next 2 years, which competitive advantage do you think it's more important? Automation speed, computing power, and I'm thinking about quantum computing, or data ownership? Thank you.
It's a difficult one. You know, Gartner's created an AI roadmap, which is basically like a program plan of 7 work streams. And what you've just mentioned there is probably 6 of the 7 work streams. So you need to look at all of them in parallel because they all impact one another. So all the way from your AI strategy to the value proposition of your AI investments, through to governance, through to culture, through to your engineering platforms and your data. They all need to be looked at to be successful. Okay? So you need to look at all of those 7 work streams to be successful, but as I say, going through a kind of crawl, walk, run exercise. So you need to do all 7, but think about the maturity level to start off with. You don't need to put a huge AI strategy together when your organization is not ready for it. Put a very simple AI strategy together and update that on your increasing level of maturity. But it's a good question, but you need to look at all of those areas in parallel.
Thank you very much. Peter Green, Executive Partner from Gartner.